Hey, David Brewster here with another episode of Breaking Chords, and this is Go Your Own Way. And I know for me and a lot of other musicians out there, anytime I stumble upon a new chord progression or something kind of different, off the beaten path, I'll learn the chord progression, and then I'll immediately flip the chords into arpeggios just to see, what it sounds like. And you can target, classical music. You can, find classic songs from groups like the Beatles or Pink Floyd or somebody like that, or somebody a little bit more recent, like Radiohead or somebody. And when you hear kind of a distinct or unusual or different chord progression, I highly recommend, just flip them into arpeggios and see what happens. All right, so the first step here is just finding a progression, finding, a group of chords that you like the sound of. So I'm going to purposely steer clear of, traditional sounds and traditional things. I want to find something a little bit different, And if you've been following my lessons and these videos, whether it's chord play, 3 for all, or scales and tails, or breaking chords, or any of this material, I do like different things, something that's not overplayed or commonly found and heard, in music. I really like unusual, situations and unusual ideas. So for this, we're really going to start with just a 2-chord progression, and then I'm going to expand that into more as it goes along. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're just going to target C major. All right, everybody should definitely be pretty familiar with that sound. And then we're going to follow that with F minor. And as soon as I hear those 2 chords back and forth, it catches my ear, it catches my attention. It sounds very interesting, just strumming it. Right? And it has a very modern, very unusual sound. So you can think of that a couple different ways. You could think of the C major chord as the 1 chord. And then you could think of F minor as a minor 4 chord, like a chord substitution. And you can definitely find that in classical music. You can even hear it, in groups like the Beatles, where like maybe they'd come from the 5 chord, the 4 chord, and then change the 4 chord to minor, and then resolve, to C major. That's very common. A lot of singer-songwriters kind of use that major 4 to minor 4 transition in their music. That's really common on piano a lot too. But another way you could view this is you could think of F minor as the 1 chord, a minor 1, and then we're going to a major 5. So there's a couple different ways you could look at that progression. It just depends on where you want to put the 1 chord. Do you want to call C, or do you want to call F minor the 1? And then that's going to basically dictate what that is. It does have a very distinct sound, and it's basically implying or pinpointing harmonic minor. So if you hear F minor followed by C major, it's basically kind of signaling you should use F harmonic minor. Right? It kind of fits that tonality. So that's kind of how we're going to think of this. So if you want to think modally in harmonic minor, the F minor with F harmonic minor played over it will just sound like F harmonic minor. But if you play F harmonic minor over that C major chord, then suddenly that's going to sound like C Phrygian dominant, technically. Which is the 5th mode of harmonic minor. So, you can lock in to that 1 scale, F harmonic minor. And when that chord changes behind you, it's going to automatically go from F harmonic minor to C Phrygian dominant. Really, really distinct and cool sound. And you can hear that everywhere from, Yngwie to Lamb of God, and there's a bunch of stuff out there that pinpoints and uses that Phrygian dominant flavor. Once you've selected a chord progression, then I would just kind of play with it, melodically, just kind of play around, targeting, some important notes from C and then some important notes from F minor, and just playing a little melodic line will bring out the sound of that chord progression, which we're going to transform into arpeggios. So if we start with C, you could just do something like this. And then go to F minor. And right there you can see there's a shared note between those two chords, and you know, also between the arpeggios too. And that's basically the note C. You know, obviously C is contained in the C major chord, but then C is also hiding in that F minor chord too. It's basically the fifth, you know, in F minor. So right there, I'm just playing a little C major melody, and then I'm basically pinpointing and reaching up and targeting, you know, the root and the minor third of F minor. But that's giving you a little taste of you know, melodic interplay between those two chords. Alright, so let's expand that idea. I'm going to move, you know, this open position area we were in up to some bar chords up here. And now we're going to target F minor, and then we're going to move, you know, to C, and then we're going to end back on F again. So we're kind of doing, you know, the minor 1, major 5, and then resolving back to that minor 1 again. And we're just going to play a little phrase. And there you can see I'm basically just playing a basic arpeggio out of that, you know, F minor bar shape. And I'm adding, you know, the A flat right there. And then right there, once I reach that C note, then I descend through C major. So I'm kind of blurring between F minor and C major. And I really like the sound of that arpeggio. The notes are kind of blurring between each other, and you know, the shared C note kind of catches your ear because you hear it, you know, between the F and the C. Because we're targeting it right there, and then it happens right there after it's changed to C major, which is really cool. If you know me, or you know my preferences in music, I love string skipping. So let's take this idea and let's move it up to another position, and let's transform it into a string skipping idea. So now let's start with F minor, move to C major, and then we can resolve back to F minor again. You know, almost the same type of thing we just did there with you know, more traditional shapes, but now we're going to use like some Paul Gilbert and, you know, Betancourt string skipping ideas. So we're going to do this. And there I'm basically just playing F minor like this. And there I'm reaching up and grabbing that B flat hiding way up there. Just to give it, you know, some movement and, you know, kind of bringing in some outside, you know, some outside scale tones there. And then we're going to move to C major right here in the same position. Now the next step to this would be expanding the chord progression. You know, we were just looking at like a 2-chord progression between F minor and C major, but let's add a couple more chords, you know, to the equation here. So let's keep the F minor, let's keep the C major, let's add D flat major and B flat minor. And that's going to give us a 4-chord progression. And there we're basically playing, you know, a minor 1, you know, a major 5, a major 6, and then also a minor 4. So we're still locked in to, you know, F minor or F harmonic minor, technically. And the interesting thing that's happening here, you know, almost like the F minor and C major comparison, you know, between F minor and C major, we have that shared C note. But then, you know, the D flat major has an F, B flat major also has an F. So your ear catches this, those common tones between the chords, and you'll find lots of musicians using that to their advantage. It's catching your attention. Just like we did with F minor and C. Now let's just kind of explore the melodic, kind of interest or the tendencies in that progression. So let's start with F minor, and then C major, and then D flat major. And then the B flat minor, I'm basically just targeting like this. And there I'm also kind of catching, the raised seventh, which is bringing it back to that harmonic minor flavor again. So there's the F minor, the C major, and then D flat major, and then B flat minor. And just to keep it real simple, even though this is kind of a challenge to play, but we're going to use kind of a simple concept. Let's just revert back to targeting bar chord shapes, full bar chords, right? And we're going to transform those bar chords to full arpeggios. So let's do something like this. And there you can see I'm literally moving, from F minor, C major, D flat major to B flat minor, right? But I basically kind of mixed and matched. I descended on F minor, ascended on C major, descend on D flat major, and then ascend on B flat minor. And I like the sound of that because it has this very, classical kind of waves of arpeggios kind of sound, right? And the band Muse actually does that a lot, but not on the guitar. It's usually on the piano, like you'll hear the keyboardist just run arpeggios up and down. And I love that sound, where you're just hearing cascades of these notes, flowing up and down. And it has a cool effect because, it's ear-catching. If we just ascended through all those or descended through all those, it wouldn't have the same interest, in the way it sounds. Something like that. Last example, we're going to transform that into a string skipping kind of workout or exercise or lick or solo or however you want to think of this. I'm just thinking of this kind of as a workout or an exercise, but you very well could play this in a song. You could take a chord progression, from a song you've written or a song you're working on, and transform the progression into arpeggios and do something just like this. So we're going to keep that same progression, the F minor, C, D flat major, B flat minor. You can see right there, it kind of maps everything out like in the same general area. There's F minor. And there I'm basically going back up to that octave, and then I'm shifting down and grabbing C major. So there's a pretty big jump. That's pretty common, to find in Paul Gilbert's ideas. His famous, Taco Bell's canon of Taco Bell's canon in D had a lot of jumps like that. Where it's a leap, between the high E to the A, and then you're jumping and starting C major right there. And then I'm starting D flat major right here. And then starting B flat minor right there on the root. So it's a challenge, but it has a really cool sound. And it's kind of, in the same neighborhood. We're not really worried about, flying around the fretboard. We're kind of locking in to one basic, neighborhood or area on the fretboard. That's going to wrap up this look at just taking, chord progressions that you like and transform them into some arpeggio ideas. So leave some feedback and some comments, and please subscribe to Late Night Lessons, and I'll be back with some more material very soon. Thank you.